This is the Outliers Edge podcast, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity by taking them to the edge of their comfort zone so that they can lead us to the edge of what's next. I'm your host, Niiamah Ashong. Let's do this. Heyo, how's it going? Niiamah Ashong here, founder of Outliers Edge, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. This is actually probably really apropos because today we get a chance to talk to David Taylor-Klaus. You might also hear me call him DTK, just out of habit. I'll do my best here. Just calling you David is like, there's something in me that's like, oh, I have to pull this out. But David Taylor-Klaus is with us today as and not just an outlier, but DTK. Do you mind if I call you DTK in this conversation? Okay.
Perfect.
All right, cool. Because I'm like, it'll just get all kind of awkward if I have to.
David Taylor-Klaus gets long. DTK is nice and tight, so it's all good.
Yeah, we'll bring that in. Look, so DTK is one of my favorite people on this planet. He's someone who is a masterful coach, like actually a masterful coach, and I can say that like with he has the certification to prove it, to go along with it. But he's also just a masterful human, and like I come to you, DTK, for questions about business, for questions about my own personal integrity, for things around like becoming a father and leaning into that there. When I spend time with you, what I get is that you bring a level, a way of seeing the world that is both deeply heart-rooted and like you have your own, this is what I would say, you have your own special spice. Like if it was a spice rack of people in my life, a lot of people like bring some salt. They're like, oh, I have vanilla, whatever it is. But there's like a special DTK flavor and seasoning that you bring to the experience. And for me, that's what I like. I love the people who bring the spice of life. And I'm like, I can't get this spice anywhere else in the world but with you. I'll leave it at that. That's how I'll express it today in this moment.
Isn't that the very definition of what an outlier is?
That's it. That's what I'm looking
spice.
For. I'm like, yeah. What? Okay. Oh, you know what this conversation needs? You know what this experience needs? You know what this world needs right now? It's a little sprinkle of the DTK seasoning, a little sprinkle of the Niiamah, a little sprinkle of the Justin, whatever it is. Like we need your sprinkle. We need that spice of you. So I'm glad that you know yours. I'm glad you know where it is, and it's like, oh, is it a pinch, or do you just like dab it all in there?
That's my favorite piece of that, because the part of recipes that bother me are all those little numbers. Because when I cook, it's pinches and dashes and handfuls and mouthfuls. It's not strict measurements. Note, I don't bake, because it has to have your personality, your style, that moment, what it's called for right then. So love that you picked up on the pinches and dashes piece to go with the spice. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I'm just deeply curious. I have to ask, do you have your own version of a salt bay, like a salt DTK, or like, just like, okay, just pinching and dashing this way? Like, let me just check in. If you have any like flair or style that comes along with it.
Yeah, mostly my flair and my styles get out of my kitchen. There's when I'm in scene, it's like, this is my space. And when people walk through it, I'm like, no. My energy, my space, my recipe.
Lovely.
So I love having Sue's, but my side of the kitchen, it's got to be when I'm in flow, I'm in flow.
And like, I'm thinking a lot about like, how do you own your outlier, right? And I love this as like a microcosm of like, we might look at it in terms of the bigger picture of shaping the next era of humanity, of your business, of the movement you're doing, of the team that you're leading. And like, I love that you are integrated enough to bring it into many aspects of your life. And like, when I'm in the kitchen, I own this space. And part of this year is stay out for now. Like, this is enjoy when the food comes out, but while I'm doing my masterpiece, while I'm doing my work, I need you out. Am I getting some of that right?
Yeah, I got to work on being a little kinder when people are in the space, but that's a separate podcast.
Yeah.
There's owning it without being a jerk. So I think we all have our edges.
We'll take that in. So let's do this here. DTK, we're going to have an amazing conversation. Neither of us know what the conversation is going to be about. But what we do know is that we're both very, very grounded and centered around it being amazing, however that ends up being. And my general thing is, the moment we let that go, I say it now so we can let it go. Everything else will naturally flow, and our end goal will be accomplished. What we've done so far is I've given people a taste of who you are to me in this moment, like, and I want to also let them know a little bit more about you. So would you mind sharing with us like something about you in this moment? It could be personal, it could be professional, but like if you wanted us to get to know you, like what would you want to share?
I love how people have really polished well prepared, polished bios, and I hate that because I think it takes the personality out of it completely. So first of all, I appreciate your speaking me into the room that way. And my favorite game to play when it's talk about yourself is that counterintuitive. I was being introduced by a coach that we know, and he was saying, tell me about this accomplishment, tell me about that accomplishment, and I'll weave this wonderful little intro for you. And so I'll do here what I did with him, which is who I am is a husband, a parent, a friend. I get paid to be a coach, but I don't define myself that way, right? My greatest accomplishment is sitting in the rooms around me. My wife and I share offices down here. She and I have been married over 30 years. We have 3 kids and now a daughter-in-law, all of whom are active parts of our world. So my greatest accomplishments live in my personal world. Everything that I do in the professional side is merely a way to put my life and my expression and my work out in the world. But that's only how I spend part of my time. What's important in my life is my life. And you have been part of my rants about what's so insidious and wrong and evil in the phrase work-life balance. And I think this you're getting a sense of. My world is oriented around having a life, and part of my life is doing some fabulous work out in the world. So that's a flavor of who I
am. I appreciate that. As you say that, I feel a natural resonance, and the natural resonance is like a low hum within my body. Like I've noticed as you were talking that there was like a slow like back and forth, like a nice undulation that's there. So I just really wanted to say like I'm feeling what you put out, and having seen you live, like in the glimpses that I've seen and the experiences that I have, and the way that we talk, like it's not. It is so aligned. It's so aligned. I love that. Like it's life with some fabulous work, but it is life, So let's talk right now here. We've given some space to that. We're going to have a conversation that's going to go in a lot of different places. I know personally, I am really curious because I know you've been working on something, and that I just feels like one of the next things that's coming out of you. It's over your right shoulder right now. I used to be a tour guide, so I can flip everything around really easily. Like I think that's right. So, yeah. Tell me more here about like better human, better life.
I will, but I'm going to set up something different because what's around it is a frame that's filled with a bunch of blank space, and it's interesting. Because I think what's salient here is I have a fundamental belief that blank space is the container within which, and the only container within which we can create and co-create with the universe. The challenge is knowing when to fill the space in. Because I think part of what I have been working on is not just how I want to talk about my work and what I believe in and how to put it out there and what it's going to look like and what it's going to sound like. And I created a lot of blank space in my world, grace and space and freedom to be able to create what this is. And I think I overcalibrated.
Okay, what do you mean by overcalibrated in this case? What does that mean?
I created too much space and I created for too long. And one of the things that can happen with my wiring, with ADD and depression are very vivid and vibrant parts of my world that I live with. I left that space open for a little long, and I think I created too much open, and I got caught up in my spiral. And so I think there's a dance in creating the space you need, but not going and sitting in the vacuum for so long that you can lose connection with yourself. So everything is a dance, right? All things in moderation, especially moderation, right? I think that one of the things I've learned to be even more attentive to is where am I and what is it that I need to be at my best? Which leads into this because the key is about what I mean by better humans. So what you see over my shoulder, and for the folks who are just listening, you're missing the visual, but it's better human, better life. And I realize in conversations with all these marketing folk, and bless their hearts, I've been involved in the advertising and marketing space since the mid to late 90s when I launched an internet strategy and web development company. And my clients were all ad agencies, PR firms, Marcom groups, et cetera. And so that's been part of my world. And if I hear one more marketing person or advertising person say, what wakes up your target audience at 3 a.m? Because the game is always to poke that pain and rip it open and go deep and fan the flames of it so that they really want whatever it is that you're doing. Niiamah, you and I have had a lot of conversations about the tendency in the marketing world to market what people want and then give them what they need.
Yep.
We played with it as market the chocolate, but then give them the broccoli.
Yep.
One of my outlier areas is that I loathe that, and I don't want to play in that space.
When you say that, are you loathe the chocolate broccoli? Like you're like, okay.
I spent a long time in the technology and internet world helping people sell folks what they wanted and then deliver what they needed. I want to market and sell and provide and serve by giving folks who want what they need what they need.
All right, let's pause on that really quickly, because this is it resonates with me, and it also feels like it feels daunting in a certain way. And at the same time, as I say, it feels daunting because that's how it feels internally when I think about the actual application. And it also takes me to memories of like, actually, no, you really do believe this. So let's slow down on this a little bit here, because I think about it from the standpoint of as an outlier. I'll use myself as an example, but it's like, hey, what I'm bringing to the world or what I want to offer to the world, I don't see that out in the world often, if at all. Right? I may be the first, I might be the only. There's like no one has done it this way. And most people are living in like what I would call like the average cluster, and they're just like all around each other, experiencing life exactly the same way. So the thoughts of bringing in something new and bringing it out to people, it feels like, well, the only way that this is going to be adopted or accepted or like purchased, or even if it's not something that's for sale, like for them to actually like take it in and say yes to this, is to quote unquote meet them where they are, and try and like go in what they think they want, and then turn into what it is that they need. So I'm deeply
which is the path
interested.
that most people take, and I get that, and for a lot of people it works.
So now I'm deeply interested. My shoulders are moving here. I'm deeply interested in like, okay, so you're taking a different path. Like, tell me a little bit more about like how you're exploring that path. I know that I don't need the silver, like the one way to get it done. It's not about that. I just want to understand like how you're thinking about it, how you're approaching it, some of the things that you're seeing work, or some of the things that are inspiring the direction that you're going in. I don't need us to have answers in this place. I want to actually just play with like what's being unpacked. That to me, I think is truly interesting.
So I'll say it this way: what wakes up people at 3 a.m. has different language for everyone. So if you want to talk about meeting people where they are, what flips people out, what they're dreaming of, what they want to shift, sounds different for a lot of people. Some want less stress, some want more money, some want more love, some want more this, more travel, more freedom, you name it. People all have their own personal language for what it is they want to see different in their world. All of it fits under the category of a better life. What does a better life look like for me? I love that because it makes it simple. I want to have a better life. Here's what it looks like for me. And helping people get clear on that, we're always good at saying what we don't want, right? I don't want this and I don't want it to look like that. We're really good at that. We need some practice in saying what it is that we want. So that's a separate piece. But describing what a better life looks like in your own language can be as varied as it need be. The challenge comes from most people are out there trying to get better at doing what they do. I believe, and it's born true for me, that the best way to get better at doing what you do is to get better at being who you be, who you are at your core. And that's the essential elements of better human. It's not better in the eyes of anybody out there, any deity, anybody in your community, anybody in with cultural norms, any influencer. The idea is better human is getting better at being the human that you're meant to be, that you're here to be. It's better Niiamahing, right? So by being better at being the human that you are, that's how you get on the path of creating the better life that you want. That is an unpopular message for some people. Oh my God, just tell me how to do that better. How do I do what I do professionally better? How do I parent better? How do I do this better? Oh, well, that's step two. The starting point is, where am I not in alignment with my values? Where am I not being the best version of myself that I can be? Where is who I'm being layered by all the weird messages I got through acculturation or socialization or education that say, this is what it is to be a man. This is what it is to be a parent. Where are those messages off target with who I be, who I am at my core? Get that clean. And as you get this cleaned, everything that you're doing out in the world becomes better. And people don't want to start here. They want to start out there.
Well, let's see here. Let's play with this a little bit. I love what you just said here. There's a number of things that are playing off for me. One of them was just like people don't have practice in saying what it is that they want. Like, we don't have practice saying this is what we want. I love that statement with the idea of like, I'm done with the chocolate broccoli. I'm done with trying to just like poke at things that are off. Instead, I want to just really spend time with what it is that people actually want. And to me, I love the congruency, the integrity of you being like, this is what I want. I'm going to say it. I am going to live in the practice of what I want. I want I want to create a space. I want you to be a better human, better and have a better life. You know, you asked me a question a while back. It's like, what is it that you want for your clients? People hadn't asked me that question. I really love like the levels of creativity that came out and the level of service that came from that. Right? There's a way to couple it with what do they want for themselves, so on and so forth. But it goes back to like, what is it that they need right now, right? So I really like that there's that in this process and what you're saying, it's like an antidote to the way of life that most people look at things, you know, instead of looking at it like you are living it in accordance, and that level of alignment really it really strikes me. So that's one. Two, I would like, as you're talking, you reminded me of when I left the actuarial world, when I was doing like retirement work in consulting. And the general thing I was thinking about was, I'm sitting in a seat, and this is in the work context, but I'm sitting in a seat in this job that to become an actuary, and I don't really want to, you know, but I talk to people all the time who are like this is my life's calling. I just found out about it. You know, I'm 40 years old. I just found out about it. I'm 25. Like, how do I get into this field? So on and so forth. And other people are out there like coveting the type of role that I'm just like, man, you know, like I could do it. I'm good at math. Like, I have a good thing going on. I love the people I'm working with. Like, I could just keep doing this, but I don't have what this other person has here. And in my mind, it looked at me. I was like, oh my goodness. There's probably someone else. I'm going to get into learning development. There's probably someone else in a learning and development role that's like, I just kind of fell into this out of college. Like, I'm good at this, sure, but what I would love to be doing is like becoming an actuary or whatever it is, or becoming a whatever it is. Like, and the thought in my mind was, I'm like, oh my God, if we could just play like musical chairs and like stop holding on to like what it is that we have because we have it,
Yeah.
you know, and instead just like turn the music on, like like vacate the roles that are no longer fulfilling us, and then let us just walk over into the roles that would like really take us on from there. Like in my mind, I'm like, what would the world look like if everyone just like got up and sat in the seat that was right for them? And when you
Well,
talk about better human, yeah,
go back to Jim Collins in his book Good to Great. One of the things he talked about, the metaphor he used, when you have the right people on the bus and in the right seat, you can go anywhere and accomplish anything. And the trick is not just having the right people, but having them in the right seat
yeah,
that they're best matched for, not the position they got shoved into or happenstanced into or fell backwards into, but the ones for which they are uniquely suited and perfectly aligned. That's how it works best.
I love this year. I love this year. All right, so take me through here, and with you, DTK, I'm actually still in the curiosity of like how you're thinking of and like how better human, better life is coming to life. Um, I think there's a lot of you that comes out. I'm checking myself as we talk because normally I don't talk about like the external, but what I get at this is it. Your life philosophy, the way that you see the world in this moment right now, is coming through those words, through this idea. So I feel like I'm getting to see how you see the world right now, and that part feels right. Okay, I needed to kind of check in on this here to make sure I wasn't missing the person in front of me to go talk about an idea. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, for you, that is an externalization of some things that work within you and how you operate in the world. Let me just see. Is that fair to lump it in? Yeah, yeah. All right. So just tell me more. So like I'm still, yeah. I almost like what geeks you out about like better human, better life? What geeks you out about the way that you see the world right now, or the opportunity you see for people? Like, but like what geeks you out about it?
Yeah, what's geeking me out about it is finding the language that resonates, because I know what makes sense for me, and I know what's landing for folk. Well, here, I'll play it out with you.
Yay.
What's been geeking me out about it is, okay, look, there are 5 elements of what better human, better life is for me. And by the way, there's a reason, for those of you who can see the graphic, the reason that it has the 3 chevrons as part of the logo in between better human and better life is it is about that forward motion. And yet it's also about the warrior energy that the chevron is an ancient symbol for. And because it is taking a warrior's approach to clearing the decks down to what's true and what's essential, and only that. And I realized as I started playing with this and I started looking at, now starting my 14th year as a professional coach, what the process is that I've been taking my clients through, even unconsciously, and now making it conscious. There are 2 elements of here. Sorry, here are the 5 elements of better human, better life: grace, space, flow, knowing, and aliveness. And I've been playing a lot with the relationship between them.
Can I ask you one real quick? I want to know about the relationship between them, but can you say it again a little bit
Yes.
slower? I want to just make sure I catch it.
Grace, space, flow, knowing, and aliveness.
Okay. I'm like, I like, do you mind if I bring my curiosity? I know you've been playing around the relationship of it, but
Bring it.
like, firstly, I'm just like, what do each of those things mean to you first? So when you say grace, what is grace to you? I'm just gonna do it for all 5. I want to know.
Right. And what's interesting, you'll see that it's hard to describe them without the relationship to them. So you're going to
Okay.
see it emerge. You're going to see it emerge as I go.
Yeah.
Because it can't not.
Okay.
Right. So grace is a short. Here's what's coming clear. It's shorthand for a secular grace, a humanist grace, because this is all about what one does for oneself and for those around them, right? Grace is a form of acceptance and understanding of and understanding for oneself and for the others around them, and even acceptance of the circumstances around you. So it's finding that grace, that ease and acceptance and empathy for self, for others, other humans around you, and for the circumstances that surround you. And what's beautiful about that is grace opens up space, ease, breathing room. It's like I just felt my chest open wide with a full breath, because that's what space is: giving yourself space to think, to feel, to be aware of what's happening for you, to give space in your world, space on your calendar. We used to call it daylight. I don't have enough daylight on my calendar, but giving yourself space to move energetically from one thing to another, because we are humans, we don't have light switches. And space is essential for transition and immersion. So grace and space are sort of the engine of this whole better human, better life process, because they feed into and feed off each other. The more grace you have, the more acceptance and empathy for self, for others, and for circumstances around you, the more space that you are allowing in your world. More space, more breathing room for grace. So that's sort of like the engine flywheel. Flow is, and there's so much work on flow that Mihai Csikszentmihalyi has done, wrote all the seminal work on flow, that idea of most of us experience flow. If you're an athlete, you've experienced, you call it a runner's high, where all of a sudden you are in the zone, where what you're doing and who you're being is inextricably linked and aligned, and there is just an energetic flow there. It is a beautiful state that, unfortunately, the moment you realize you're in flow, you're out of it, right?
And there it goes, right? Yeah.
And there it goes. What's powerful about flow is that's where your knowing, your inner knowing, your somatic intelligence, call it gut wisdom, heart intelligence, body knowing, somatic wisdom. We have lots of names for it culturally. This lump on the top of your neck is 8% of your body mass. Your brain is 3% of body weight. And yet we look to our brain for answers for everything. And I get it. I've gotten a lot of acknowledgement and accolades and awards for thinking. But that's a fraction of what knowing is available from me. Orders of more magnitude of information coming from the body to the brain than the brain to the body. And yet we still look here. So flow is that state where you also allow much more of your somatic knowing to surface. Here's what's beautiful about these four elements. As each of these grows, as you give more energy to it, aliveness is what expands. That is that living in an aligned way, feeling the energy. Everybody says, I want to get up on Monday morning and every morning feel excited to get out of bed. Guys, that's aliveness. Is feeling that excitement to be present to and in any given moment. This is that richness of our experience. And this model, this relationship between grace and space and flow state and knowing, is that just drastically expands aliveness. Now, there's no, hold on, there's no there. This is not a system that you go through once and you're all good. I'm good. No. This is a recursive loop. And every time you go through this system, the aliveness expands even more. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to actually shortchange aliveness. I actually want to bring in more in it. I get that part. I get that. I'm like, I don't want to shortchange it. I don't want to rush that part. I have a question around flow and knowing, right? Because they actually kind of flow together.
I have a million questions around them both.
I like that. So then I feel better when I'm like, so I have questions. So we have grace and space, and from what you're saying here, I can see that here as a flywheel system. And then if I'm hearing you, there's flow and knowing as well. And can I just tell you what I feel like, what I think I heard? Okay. Um, I'm seeing myself trying to like turn it into some like turn it into an example of it. But to me, there's an interchange that takes place with both of them, right? And so flows being in the zone, right? And there's an element of like capturing being in the zone. And there's another thing of called knowing, which is that inner wisdom, the other parts, the other thing that you named here. And if I'm getting you right, part of like that part of the system is the interchange, like the greater in flow you are, the more that the inner knowing can come up and be surfaced and be tapped into, which will deepen you in your own flow, because like you're things are lining up and so on and so forth. And there's another like recurring cycle that takes place from that place. So let me just check and make sure that I'm actually seeing like the relationship between flow and inner knowing, and knowing like really really well. And then we'll continue on from there, but I want to make sure am I capturing
one of the absolute killers for allowing inner knowing to surface. Call it intuition, call it download from source, lots of names for it. One of the biggest sources of noise that make it hard to pull out the signal is the internal narrative, the mental chatter. We have 40 to 60,000 discrete thoughts a day. We can't process even a fraction of them. They are speeding through this melon. And the challenge is flow state is one of the few times, flow state meditation very closely linked, that we can turn down the chatter and be fully present to what's available. That's why flow state is so important. I had a great example of it. I was listening to my wife tell a story of going to do some filming in New York before the pandemic, to record dozens of videos to go onto this medical site. And at one of the moments, the producer said, after Elaine finished answering questions, said, wait, our lights were off. We're just cattywampus a little bit. As my guys are resetting those, can you say that again? And she looked at her and said, no. I have no idea what I said. I answered the question fully present to this moment, on message, on purpose. I have no idea what I said, but I could probably do it again. And I think that's an example of being in a flow state where you're so alive and in that moment and present only to that moment that you're not consciously aware. You're engaged, you're in flow. And that's some of the most rewarding times in my business as a coach. And one of the reasons that I record sessions for my clients is so that we can both be in flow in the moment and not have to worry about catching notes and making sure we remember everything. It's there. And we can be fully present and let what wants to surface, what needs to surface. We don't have a lot of times in our lives. We don't allow for a lot of times in our life where we can even be in flow. We got to talk about runner's high. I don't have time to go run for 3 hours. I got to go jam in a run in between breakfast and when I got to get showered to go to work.
So now that makes me think here. Thank you for that. That's like that bridges a question that was in my mind. It gets me thinking as you talk about this, because I like to keep things real. Like, so I pay, like, if I hear what you're saying for yourself here, just a real quick, like, how do you get it? Like, where are your pathways to flow? And be like, yeah, what are your pathways to flow?
Ooh. One of the most powerful ones for me that I harness is breath and meditation. Right? I meditate every morning, whether I do again during the day or not in an active session. Has more to do with where I am and what I'm feeling. But breathing and getting centered before every coaching call, breathing and getting centered, creating space to do that ritual before I step in to a podcast appearance, before I walk out on stage. Because here's what I know. When I'm fully present to the moment, when I'm on message and on my purpose, that's when, it may be the only time when, I'm creating the impact that I'm here to create, that I'm meant to create. That's when I'm in flow while serving. Hell yeah. It's worth taking that moment or two to get centered, to get grounded, and invite in that flow state.
As you're talking here, what also comes to my mind is like the element of grace, based on what I'm understanding, how you've been saying it, like giving yourself the grace, or a lot, extending the grace to say, I'm going to take 10 minutes or wherever it is to do what it is to create the space. Like, because in my mind, like, I'm like, the two things that come up are, I should already be ready, you know.
Right. That's the internal narrative. Those
Yep,
are the saboteurs and gremlins saying you should already be ready.
you should already be ready. And the other thing is like, oh well, if I just finish this other thing first, like then I'll just be able to come in. I can squeeze it in, right? And to give yourself the grace, to be like, you know, it's all right if that isn't done right now, or whatever else comes out. I can see how that then goes and creates a space to then get into flow, then allow for the present moment, inner knowing to this to emerge, and then I get to be in a conversation with you and experience aliveness with you, the aliveness I'm feeling right now. Am I catching?
That was the arc.
That's it.
That's
Gotcha.
the arc.
Okay, cool.
And imagine being able to create that on the fly anywhere, standing and talking to the mechanic who's going to take care of whatever's wonky with your car. You name it, it can happen everywhere. Standing, talking to a cashier in line. Yes, some of us are going back out in public. So there's not a moment in your world where getting set, getting anchored, being fully present won't change the aliveness that's available to you in any interaction.
I'm grateful for this here. So I'm glad that we got a chance to see that arc. It's cool to see how you're seeing the world right now, and like where you're bringing, like the journey you're bringing people on. And it's interesting. I have to watch my language as I talk, because I'm like, yes, you're bringing them on a journey, but if I'm hearing you right now, also you're like, this is the journey that they actually are already on. This is now just like like illuminating things. It's like you can walk through your house at 3 a.m. in the morning with no lights on. It doesn't mean that they're like, and you might bump into something. Doesn't mean it wasn't there. But if the light was on, you might have been able to know how to walk around that and navigate yourself properly, like without hurting yourself. And so that, like when I hear this here, it's like there's a lot of it feels like it's really principled in the approach here. And I appreciate that you're shining that light and illuminating like a path to be able to accomplish, or to achieve, or to experience, or to recognize, or and accept, and like the aliveness that is readily available to us here. This feels really good.
And that's part of the piece is we spend so much of our time, effort, energy, and attention doing and moving quickly that, you know, our coach will say to us all the time, slow down to speed up. Okay, let's make this practical though. There isn't a single moment in our world where we can't be more present to it and be better at being the human that we're meant to be and get more out of the world around us. And yes, to a certain degree, people will look at this and say, oh, this is part of the be, do, have. If I be this, I can do that better. I can have more. That's still have oriented. That's still, it's not about being fully present and aware and shining a light on every element of who you be for the sake of better knowing yourself. The natural cascade will take care of itself.
There's a part of me that's like, if people say it's like X, Y, and Z, I'm like, it's because you're explaining, like you're talking from a principled perspective, you know, like that's my thing. It's like you got like, I think this is important. We're gonna start wrapping up our conversation here, but I think it's important. Like we are shaping the next era of humanity, right? We are leaders out here shaping the next era of humanity. We each have our own way of doing it. We each have our own paths towards it, but like we're following very similar principles of empathy, of starting with yourself and letting what is within come to create what gets done externally versus the other way around. So like, yeah, it might sound like something else, right? But that path can take you but so far in a certain way. And for like, there's other things, like to me, I hear it, I'm like, yeah, like this is why what you're saying is so true. And there's like, And there's certain people for certain times at certain like instances in their lives where like this is the path of what like to walk down. Like what you just said about like the pathway to aliveness, I've never heard anyone else describe before. I hear people, my clients say it themselves, like, I want more aliveness, and we'll work on it, you know. But like this path that you laid out, starting with grace, allowing for more space, get into the flow, and then letting the inner know, like that path, I haven't heard of. You know, we might jump by and stop by at some of those places along the way, you know, but it's really different. And at the same time, it's come from a principled place. And that's what I love about the truth. I'm like we all, like, when you talk about go for what people like really need, it's like it's all based on these same principles. And I'm glad that you've seen the construct of it that like will support people to like really live this out. And I don't know, there's something to me that relaxes around like, oh, okay, yeah, there's like there is a framework, there's a model to be able to walk down in order to get this here. So let's do this here. I want to give us we can always have more conversations, but this one's about to be complete for today. What I like to do is end with 2 questions. The first question is, if someone is interested in deepening the experience with you, if someone is like, oh, I'm on a pathway of aliveness, or this, like, I just want to spend more time continuing this conversation, how can they do that?
The best way is always to come directly to me. And I'm going to violate the rule of every podcast appearance. I'm going to give you 2 ways. One is dtkcoaching.com, which will be in the show notes, obviously. DTK as in David Taylor-Klaus, dtkcoaching.com. You can find out about me, a lot of how I approach the world, look at it, think about it, and more importantly, you can reach out and contact me directly. The other avenue is I am launching a community for folks who are interested in the Better Human, Better Life approach. And conveniently enough, it's at betterhumanbetterlife.com. And you're more than welcome to come in and explore the community with me.
Fantastic. Y'all take them up on this here. Actually, there's a part of me, like, I'm gonna get to the second question. There's a part of me right now, this one's just put in this one area. And let me ask it while we're here. No, I'm gonna let that go. That's for me. I want that, but I'll let that go. Let's finish with what's for you. And the last question I'm gonna ask you here is, a lot of times I've heard people go and say ask the question, hey, knowing what you know now, what's a message that you would have given to your former self 20 years ago or something like that, right?
Oh,
yeah,
I love that question.
I have no interest in it. What I'm curious about is, given who you are today, what's a message that you want to leave for your future self to come back to? It's a time capsule. What's something that you know in your inner knowing that like a future DTK might come back and be like, oh, that's right.
So it's interesting. It's a fabulous construct. And I think the answer is the same, whether I'm talking 20 years back or 20 years forward. Breathe. Stop taking yourself so fucking seriously.
And there we have it. David, I am so thrilled that we got to have this conversation here. Thank you. Like my main thing is, like, I'm just glad I got to bring you out to the world even more. Bring you out to my world even more. And I think, I know you're a phenomenal human. I'm glad that you're out there working with others to bring out more of their humanness, and to start with that and really own that. I appreciate you. I have a lot of respect for you, and I'm really excited for everything that comes out from here.
Loved having the conversation. I look forward to our next one, as always.
Take care.
We're just getting started. Take 10 seconds to think about your greatest insight from today's conversation. And if you're ready to go and bring this to a deeper, more applicable level for you, come and join us in an upcoming masterclass. Go to outliersedge.com/masterclass to be coached live and to bring your aspirations, your goals, and your challenges and have them handled in real time. This is high flame, high impact, high transformation. Go to outliersedge.com/masterclass and come experience your next level of leadership.